Hi, everyone. Welcome to my webinar today, which I'm going to be covering health and sanitation practices for your cannabis operation. Just to go over the way the webinars work is I take questions at the end of the webinar just so I can stay on track, and that way people need to bounce off early. They don't miss as much information. I do have a section where I am going to ask you guys some questions, and I want you to definitely participate and be engaged. And feel free to use the chat box to answer some of my questions. I am also recording this video today, so I will upload it on my YouTube channel. And just a reminder, I'm definitely not a lawyer, but I love compliance, and I'm just here to basically try to help the cannabis industry on an educational level the best that I can. I am a certified ServSafe food safety instructor. I just recently obtained my certification here in Colorado. I worked 23 years in the restaurant industry and then converted over to regulated cannabis in 2009. So it's nice to have the health and sanitation background, to have worked with dispensaries and manufacturing facilities and cultivation facilities. Health and sanitation isn't typically everyone's favorite topic. I was really surprised I had as many people as I did sign up for this webinar. I believe health and sanitation practices should be implemented all across the U.S. and regulated cannabis, and if we ever become federally legal, this will be an everyday thing for all of us. We'll have to implement health and sanitation practices daily. I know it sounds crazy, but there are people who are not implementing health and sanitation practices. I know because I audit facilities on a regular basis, and I know whether they're clean or not, or if they have good health and sanitation practices. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Some of you know my background. I started in 2009 as a dispensary manager, and I worked all the way up until 2014, where I helped convert a medical store over to recreational adult use. We are one of the 7 licenses in the entire state of Colorado, 2014 to open and serve adult use cannabis. It was a very exciting time, and I'm extremely grateful for my background and being an employee in this industry. And I'm really happy to have my consulting business where I can help owners and employees and bridge the gap to compliance in our industry. Is this down? Sorry, give me a second. There we go. So basically today I'm just going to cover basic food and product safety practices. We have to say food safety because these are the programs that are available to us out in the world, which is basically food safety courses. And the great thing about it is we can apply all the same basic food safety to product safety, whether you're making edibles or you're making concentrates in your manufacturing facility. But even in your grow, we have health and sanitation standards in our grow, and even in the dispensary, because at the end of the day, everything that we make and cultivate and grow, it all goes to one place, the store. And we have customers and patients that purchase from the store. And so we need to keep everyone healthy, and including our employees and our customers. So I believe all 3 licenses are related to health and sanitation practices. Even though we don't focus a lot of it on the dispensary side, I want to bridge that gap because I believe there are definitely things that we can work on the dispensary side to prevent some of the things that I'm going to talk about with you today. Oops, sorry. So there we go. All right. So I wanted to cover some basic food safety practices that you should be utilizing in your cannabis operation. Like I said, we're focusing on cultivation, manufacturing, so people who produce edibles, drinks, even salves, patches, creams, all that stuff, concentrates, and then the cultivation facility where it all starts, because without the cultivation facilities, none of us would have any of these products and wouldn't have a store. So it always starts with the grow. So all these practices apply to every licensed operation. So one is that one of the practices you should be having in your facility is clean and sanitize all your surfaces. So in your cultivation facility, you should have walls in your facility that are cleanable, meaning if you have a brick wall and it's just plain brick and not painted and it's porous, how are you going to clean that and disinfect that wall? Most people end up covering their walls with white paint or whatever in their cultivation facilities. Obviously, if you're in a greenhouse or outdoor cultivation, this does not apply to you. But even if you are a greenhouse, there are things that can be cleaned. Your floors, there are walls in greenhouses. There are different types of walls. Your lights, depending if you're full sun or not full sun in your greenhouse. Some greenhouses have lights that come on when the sun goes behind the clouds. So you should be able to clean and sanitize all your surfaces in your infused product kitchens. All your stainless steel tables should be cleaned down. Your walls should be able to be cleaned. Everything in the building you should be able to come in and sanitize and clean. To do a deep cleaning at least once a month, and then you're regularly every day, before you leave for your shift cleaning. So also practice good personal hygiene. This is kind of a challenging topic. As an ex-dispensary manager, or just a manager in general, even when I was in the restaurant industry, you had to have conversations with your employees about personal hygiene, and it's a really uncomfortable conversation because you don't want to really hurt anyone's feelings. But it's your responsibility for whatever facility that you're managing or operating as the owner that you either put in your employee handbook or your SOPs about that your employees have to have good personal hygiene. And this is down to not wearing dirty clothes, having a clean uniform. I know dispensaries, we don't always have a uniform, but when we get more on the cultivation side and into the production kitchens, clean uniforms are really important. Washing hands, probably the number one most important thing, and changing gloves out. So personal hygiene is important. Obviously, you don't want to have someone on your team that hasn't showered, doesn't use deodorant, and kind of has a little bit of a stink going on. That's not really fun for the entire team. So, and necessarily that really wouldn't really be able to smell it if you were on the grow side, because when I'm in grows, all I smell is the fresh cannabis growing. But once you get into the kitchen atmosphere, I believe this rule definitely applies. And once again, it's not a personal attack on that employee. There's definitely a way to bridge it with the employee and just say, look, we're just trying to implement really good health and sanitation practices. And if the health department were to come in here, they could say something to you. And if you're in Denver County, they will, because the health department comes into all of our licensed facilities in Denver County every 6 months, the health department, which I love, and I wish they did this throughout our whole entire state and not just in Denver County. So control time and temperature of food, and I just put in parentheses infused products. So obviously this would be the same if you were working in a restaurant or dealing with food. You can have time temperature abuse, which is with your meats, your eggs, your dairy, seafood. All those things have specific time temperatures they need to stay in, and you don't want them to get into the temperature danger zone. And there's only a certain allowed amount of time that food can stay out before it hits the danger zone where bacteria begins to form. So this really is about oils, like infused oils, depending on your state and your regulations and what your regs are around edibles. But if you have cookies with butter made in it and eggs, so even in your facility, you have to make sure you're keeping your milk and your eggs and butter at the right temperature, and that you have a thermometer in your refrigerator and you're monitoring your refrigerators and freezers. And even when you get into concentrates, I know there's some wicked recipes out there for all kinds of stuff and sauce and all these crazy names I can't even keep up with anymore on the concentrate side. But they have ice machines, they have freezers, they have walk-in coolers. They need to have things at certain temperatures, and so it applies as well. Um, One of the things that can happen is you can have botulism, which is a really scary thing once we get into diffused oils. So there's no regulation for this from the health department. So they do the best they can. They kind of created a standard, um, as long as you can stay out of the temperature danger zone, and you can make sure you're cooling down anything that gets hot at the regular rate that you're supposed to cool it down, for the temperatures. So these are things that you have to think about, and you just want to keep people safe out there. Obviously, I don't know anyone in Colorado that's infusing meats unless they're private dinner parties by private chefs. But it just depends on what your state regulations are. I highly recommend, if you have a infused kitchen where you're making food or infusing food or nuts or candy or drinks or coffee or any of that, take the time to go over the restaurant regulations for your city and state. Um, and I would follow those guidelines. That's basically what Denver has done. They hold us accountable just like they do the restaurant industry here in Denver. So though reading those regulations are extremely helpful, and you can kind of pull some of that stuff out of there and implement it into your SOPs as far as health and sanitation and good practices, and making sure you don't have time temperature abuse with some of your products. And there's some things that have a good shelf stability and don't need to be refrigerated. So I'm not really referring to those things. I'm referring to more of the fresh baked goods or anything, especially oils, because we can get botulism and those type of things. I don't really see botulism happening too much at the cultivation of the store. That's going to happen more in the kitchen environment. So preventing cross contamination is also a best practice, and I'm going to dive into cross contamination in this video today, and I'm actually going to ask you guys some questions because I'm just curious to what everyone thinks cross contamination is in a cannabis facility, not restaurants. Obviously, raw chicken, fresh vegetables, yeah, of course, that's cross contamination. But how do we look at cross contamination from a licensed facility perspective? And that's what I want to cover today. Overall clean facility. This is the grow, the store, the production facility. It's a mixed bag out there. I would say for the most part, stores really don't have a cleanliness issue. And same for most of the kitchens or production facilities I've been into are really clean. It's more the grow side, and not that I'm not trying to knock growers. It's just kind of sometimes a dirty environment. We've got dirt, we've got soil, we've got waste, and also we have living soil, which creates a lot of gnats and other things. And a lot of times people recycle and compost and use the entire product of the plant and break it down and put it back into the plant for nutrients. So it can get a little dirty and grimy and dusty, and you can get resin all over things, and I get it. But I've been in some really, really clean cultivation facilities that you could eat off the ground. So if it's happening out there, I know it's possible to have an absolutely spotless, clean grow facility. There's lots of things that you can implement. I get it. I've been in places where the building's so old, unless you come in and gut the whole place or fresh paint on all the walls so you can clean the walls. But I've been in some old buildings where it was really the building itself is what made the facility unsanitary. It wasn't the way that they were growing or their processes. Just some things to think about. Clean and stocked bathrooms. I had to throw this in here because I do a lot of audits of grows. And I love grows and growers. However, for some reason, the men's bathroom is not as clean as the women's bathroom, or the men's bathroom typically doesn't have soap or paper towels. And it's actually one of the biggest violations I come across when I audit cultivation facilities are the bathrooms. And so basically your bathrooms should be clean and you should have a cleaning schedule. I think a lot of people, what they do is maybe they rotate every week who cleans the bathroom, and they might have a clipboard in the bathroom for that person to sign off. Just like you see at restaurants, sometimes you'll go in, you'll see a bathroom cleaning log. That's pretty typical. And that holds everyone accountable for ensuring that the bathrooms are clean. The ladies' room, they are definitely clean. So I'm not sure why there's a difference. Maybe for the guys, it doesn't matter as much, but it's really not about preference. It's actually about regulation, and that you could actually get a violation for not having a clean bathroom and not providing hand soap and a drying device. Those are in not only our Colorado marijuana regulations on a state level, but they're also in our regulations that the health department implements here in Denver County. And so if you're not in Denver County and you're not in another state, I highly suggest just implementing these practices in your facility, because you never know when all of a sudden in your state, the health department's like, okay, we're going to start inspecting these facilities. It could already be happening or it could be coming. And then once again, like I said, we don't really know what's going to happen if we become federally legalized, and what are the next set of standards, because they're definitely going to be higher than the standards that we're already in right now if we become federally legal. So just some things to think about, just some basic, health and sanitation practices. And these same things apply if we were operating a restaurant or a catering business or anything like that. So I wanted to cover health and sanitation SOPs. So I know that some states require SOPs. We require SOPs here in Colorado. I know they do in Maryland and other states. But I want to implore you to create health and sanitation standard operating procedures. So the things that I talked to you about today are things that you can put into your SOPs. Basically like your standardization of cleaning. What's your cleaning process? How often do you want it? Daily cleaning versus, maybe a once a month deep cleaning. And your manufacturing facility, how often are your machines getting cleaned? Do you have a log? Are you tracking what all the machines? If you have a trim machine, maybe you have a machine that that weighs out and packages your eighths, or you have a machine that stuffs cones, or like some people, they put stuff in like little not cigarettes, but they use the cigarette paper that they fill because it has a filter on the end. So there's so many different things in your manufacturing facility, your machine that bottles the coffee or the machine that makes the chocolate. Like how often are those things getting cleaned? Then when we get on the store side, how often is there a deep clean at the store? But what about, are your scales getting wiped down with rubbing alcohol, like isopropyl at like 99%? I think is the highest rating you can get for percentage. And wear gloves because it will burn your fingers, but or just make your fingers really dry. But it will just take all that grime right off your scales that you're weighing in front of your customer. Those scales should be clean. All your jars, your display jars, every time you put a new batch in that jar, it should be clean, a new harvest batch. So anyone that's on metric, once you finish out and sell out of that package tag, you want to clean that jar. You just want to say, oh, well, I already had Blue Dream in it. Well, what if that Blue Dream was a different batch? And what if there was an issue with that different batch, the previous batch? That's kind of where I'm going to be hitting on the cross contamination that I want to talk to you about later. It's just we don't really think about these things. So there's definitely ways to create health and sanitation operating procedures your facility. On the grow side, what about all your processes? There's some places that can't use pesticides, or they're choosing not to use pesticides. What are your processes if you have a clean room, if there's uniforms, if everyone's, they can't wear their shoes. They have to take them off and wear, I like to call them the grow shoes, or the on-site grow shoes that you keep there. They've never left the building. So you're not bringing what's inside out. I'm sorry, you're not bringing what's outside inside to your cultivation facility. So you can have all this written down for your procedures, and then you want to train your employees on all these procedures so they understand and they have really good guidelines for good health and sanitation practices in your facility, and also good food safety and product safety practices. You have to treat your manufacturing facilities no different than running and operating a restaurant or a catering company or a manufacturing facility such as, Lipton tea or Hershey's chocolate. Like, you have to run and operate at those high standards in your manufacturing facility. So we're going to talk a little bit about cross contamination. It gets a little heebie-jeebies going on, but that's okay. Got to get a little freaked out a little bit for a minute here. So cross contamination in the workplace. So it's the transferring of germs between people, food, and objects, use products, causes cross contamination and can lead to minor or serious illnesses. Wherever you work, you have a duty to others to cut out the cross contamination, and those tasked with cleaning have the same responsibility. So it's our responsibility to not allow cross contamination. And there's a bunch of different ways we have cross contamination. When I do audits, I look for cross contamination, whether it's in the kitchen or the dispensary or the cultivation facility. You can have cross contamination with nutrients, pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, and teas, and all these different things, and cleaning supplies. If you're in a cultivation facility and all those things are on one shelf, you're gonna have cross contamination of different chemicals in your facility. All your chemicals should be separated and labeled accordingly. Cleaning supplies should only be on a cleaning supply shelf. Nutrients should be with nutrients, and pesticides should be in a pesticide cabinet that's locked, and I think they sell them and they're fireproof. If you're using pesticides, they should be in the appropriate pesticide cabinet and not mixed with anything else. And even your PPE here in your cultivation facility, so that's the masks, filters, the biosuits, everything that you use if you're spraying pesticides and really intense chemicals in your facility, those should be binned up in plastic bins so they can't get any contamination on them at all. So that way, you just want to keep clean with clean. You don't want to contaminate yourself or a room or anything like that. That's definitely one way on the grow side. And on, obviously, in the kitchen side, we can have cross contamination with raw eggs and other products, bare hand contact, not wearing gloves, not washing hands and touching products. Even in the cultivation facility, you should be wearing gloves in every facility whenever you're going to be touching products. Gloves, gloves, gloves. And the dispensary cross contamination can happen a lot of different ways. I'm going to hit on that in a minute. I'm going to keep going here. So I wanted to make sure I got the definition right. I pulled this from my food safety manual, but cross-contamination is the transferring of pathogens from one surface or food product to another. So one of the things that we're a little worried about in the industry, and maybe we're pretty lucky in Colorado that this hasn't happened, and I don't want it to happen, to be honest, but I believe one day in the future, if we don't start implementing these practices across the board in every state and every facility, that we could have norovirus spread, where it would start with the employee and then be spread onto the customers. And we hear about norovirus in about cruise ships, all over cruise ships. And that's because it can stay up on a contact surface for up to 48 hours. And so let's just say it's on a bathroom handle. Everyone that touches that bathroom handle, on that door handle of the bathroom in your facility, then touches it, and it's just getting carried and carried and carried. And this is why hand washing is so vitally important in our industry, because we're no different than the restaurant industry. And these same rules apply in the restaurant industry, washing hands to protect, to make sure no one's getting norovirus. So just some things to think about, and just how easy it is to have cross-contamination in a facility. I think people think raw meat, eggs, how can I get cross-contamination in a grow or store? Yeah, you could probably think people who make edibles because they might have raw eggs. But why would I have cross-contamination? Well, it's pretty easy. It's from one surface or food to another. I mean, that's pretty simple. And a surface is a surface, and there's food and there's products, and it's just very easy to happen. So I thought this would be kind of fun, and so using your chat box, I want to see if anyone can name a few ways that cross-contamination can happen in your license if you're in a dispensary, grow, or production facility. And go ahead and use your chat box if anyone has a different way that you can get cross-contamination in the dispensary. So I'll put one in for the dispensary, and if anyone else has one, please type it in your chat box. But so basically, in the store, you can get cross-contamination. So if anyone else has any other, just, whether you're manufacturing or cultivation or dispensary, please enter in different ways that you think you can get cross-contamination. I'll start first. So in the store, think about this. Who here has gone to a dispensary where they have the little bowl on the scale, and they go to their jar, and then they dump the eighth, they're weighing out your eighth in the bowl, and they're dumping it into the bowl. And then they dump it into the eighth container. So now the next person comes in and they dump the next strain into the bowl. And it goes on and on and on. I know you all have seen this bowl I'm talking about at dispensaries. That bowl never gets cleaned in between ways. It just piles on. You look at it, it's covered in crystals. It's covered in resin. It doesn't get, I don't even know if it gets cleaned at the end of the day. So if you have a bad batch on your shelf, okay, and then you mix it in that bowl, and then all the other clean batches hit that bowl, you could be putting yourself up for a cross-contamination situation. Chopsticks, bare hand contact, not washing utensils in your dispensary when handling product. This is why you should just take your pop top, tear it out on the scale, and then fill the actual package with your product while it's on the scale, and don't use a bowl. Ditch the bowls, because I think that's cross-contamination. It's not in the way that we think about with raw meat and eggs, but in a sense, you're mixing batches. So think about it. You're mixing different batches, different times. Maybe one used a pesticide, and now you're not using pesticides anymore, and now you contaminate the bowl. So these are things to think about. I'm going to see, we got some good stuff rolling in here. Gina says, during harvesting, if you don't clean the totes in between strains, you can transfer plant tissues from one strain to another. Absolutely. Steve, reusing purging tools on infected plants, powdery mildew. Absolutely. See, you can see it on the grow side. Oh, not changing your scrubs or clothing when moving from one grow room to another if you have any hermine, PM mites, etc. Boy, that is really true. And then we have improperly storing packaging materials. True. All really good examples. And so we cover the dispensary. We have a lot of grow answers. And then we also have some MIP. At a MIP, if you don't clean the work surfaces or pick up food ingredients that drop on the floor. Yep. And not cleaning your storage room. Thanks for that. I'm glad we got some MIP ones in there too. Yeah, and also in the MIP, you think, oh, I'm working with infused products. What does it matter? Well, it does matter. So if you're using your Hobart mixer, that bowl gets cleaned. And you have to make sure you're properly sanitizing and washing and rinsing properly in your kitchens. And I'll use the example later on. I have a slide that will cover how to set up your sinks properly. But it's, like I said, I would apply the restaurant regulations to every facility when it comes to health and sanitation practices. And for dispensaries, you just kind of have to think out of the box a little bit, because everything that you're dealing with is packaged, but you're still responsible for cleaning your counters and your surfaces, your display cases, your jars, your utensils that you're using if you're doing deli style weighing. If you're pre-pack, there's not much to worry about, but if you're doing the boutique deli style weighing, like I said, get rid of the bowl. And every one of those jars should be cleaned with rubbing alcohol or some kind of way to be cleaning them out after you start a new batch of package tag. And your scales should be cleaned. I see a lot of dirty scales out there, and it doesn't take much. It should just be part of the closing duties. I know the grow side and MIP side's a little bit different, or the production side. But when I was a manager, I always had opening and closing procedures, shift work. It was no different than working in a restaurant when servers have to clean. I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant, but you have to sit there and steam your glasses, wipe them down, steam all the silverware because they're trying to get all the spots off from the dishwasher, and they want everything sparkly clean. So it's having side work is no different for dispensaries. So your side work could be making sure that the scale's clean, and at the grow, anytime you're going to be weighing, going from one different harvest batch to another, that scale should be cleaned. So awesome. I love that you guys gave some awesome responses. I appreciate that. You guys gave some really good ones. So how to prevent cross-contamination in your cannabis operation. So you want to ensure, I'm going to try to hit every facility type here. So ensure your sinks for manual chemical washing are set up properly. So wash, rinse, sanitize, and air dry. I think one of my slides, I'll have a diagram to show you. And I will, you guys will have access to this video. Like I said, I'm recording it. So taking notes, you'll be able to go back and watch it. Clean food contact surface. You want to make sure you clean all the food contact surfaces and equipment properly that comes in contact with all your products. You want to wash your hands after touching a cell phone. Oh my God, y'all. Cell phones are so dirty. I'm not trying to freak you out, but people take their cell phones to the bathroom, okay? And so you should just not even be allowed to have your cell phone on the floor in the grow facility around plants or in your production facility kitchen. They should be stored away, and you shouldn't ever be touching them because of all the germs that are on your phone. I use what do they call them, like sanitizing wipes on my phone to clean it. But yeah, you don't want to have your phone on you. Wash your hands after the bathroom, smoking, sneezing, coughing, eating, handling money. I'll have a bigger list actually in a couple slides for this. So change your gloves out every time you start a new task, whether you're bud tending, cultivating, or producing. A lot of people don't, they get the first step where they put the gloves on, but then they don't change the gloves. You have to change your gloves every new task that you start. And you have to wash your hands before you put your gloves on. So, and another thing is I want to talk about hand sanitizer, because I know this because this is what I'm trained on in food safety. I want to tell everyone, hand sanitizer is never going to replace washing your hands. It doesn't do anything. You can only use hand sanitizer after you wash your hands. But if you don't wash your hands and use hand sanitizer and you think your hands are clean, they are not. It's the process of washing your hands, getting them soapy and lathery, doing the rinse, and then the paper towel action. That's what removes pathogens off of our hands. Hand sanitizer does not remove pathogens off of your hands. It's a big myth out there. I just want to bust it. When I got my training, I was like, wow, I really thought hand sanitizer was awesome, and it did clean my hands. So just thought I would share what I learned in my training. And if you have hand sanitizer, great, but it's not to replace hand washing and to be used after you wash your hands. Scary stuff, because a lot of people think it cleans their hands. So you want to train all your employees on basic health and sanitation principles. Like I said, you can use the regulations from the restaurant industry in your state. Contact your local health department, find out if they offer a food safety course. I do food safety courses, but you can also, I think the health department will show up and do one. You can take them online. It really just depends on what you want. Mine are more cannabis specific. Most of the courses that you go out there and take, they will all be food safety. You're going to have to learn about meat temperatures and all that stuff, which is helpful. Maybe you want to know how to cook chicken or beef properly at your house. But my training involves talking about actual cannabis products incorporated with food safety. Either way, it doesn't matter, because just getting the knowledge on hand washing, how to set up your sinks, dishwasher, just overall cleaning practices, it's a really good training that everyone should get for every employee. So you want to clean and sanitize all display jars, utensils, trimming tools, pots, plant tables, cure buckets. So a lot of people just dump, once they've harvested the plant, they take their pots and they just dump the soil out. They don't scrub and clean the pots. Some places are really good about it, but other places, they just reuse that pot because of the labor involved with the pot. Well, if you don't want to clean the pots, go and find the cloth ones, the ones that are recyclable or compostable, or try a different version of what you're going to grow your plant in, because it's really unsanitary to keep using pots and not cleaning them. You should be cleaning your plant tables after every time you harvest, all your cure buckets, because you don't want to just say, oh, who cares? What does it matter that there was Blue Dream in that cure bucket last month? Who cares if I put this Bruce Banner in here? Well, it does matter, because what if that's infected? What if the previous plant was infected? What if there was something going on, some PM, and now that the inside of the cure bucket is covered with PM, and now you're putting it, the next batch, clean batch, into a bucket that has PM in it. So these are the things that we should think about when it comes to ensuring that we're preventing cross contamination in our operations. We're going to talk about hand washing, everyone's favorite. So you should wash your hands after using the restroom, handling raw meats or fish, even at your home. You should be doing that. Taking out the trash, touching your hair, face, or body, touching your clothing or apron. So this is what I'm talking about, dirty uniforms. If you are covered in trim stuff, as a trimmer, you just get literally sprayed with leaves and crystals and sticky stuff. And you're touching yourself, then you're touching the plant. you don't have gloves on, you're doing bare hand contact, you're going to create a cross-contamination environment. I highly recommend uniforms in the cultivation side and also production facilities. Dispensaries, not so much because everything is packaged. But I think when you're creating a product, growing a product, everyone should have clean uniforms on and not have outside clothes, and keep them in the facility. They're done by a laundry service, or they're cleaned in your facility. I think that really does eliminate a lot of issues. Also, a lot of people don't know this, and if any of you wearing aprons or chef coats in your production facility kitchens, you have to take those off before you go to the bathroom. You hang them up and you go to the bathroom, and then you come back and put them on, because whatever you're taking to the bathroom, you could be contaminating that clothing. So sneezing, coughing, or using a tissue, handling any chemicals, grow side, any chemicals, cleaning dirty tables or dishes, smoking, doesn't matter if you're smoking tobacco or cannabis, you gotta wash your hands. Eating, drinking, handling money. Oh my gosh, money is dirty. As much as we all love money, it's dirty. Chewing gum or tobacco before putting your gloves on to start a new task. Leaving and returning to the food and prep areas. So this is like your manufacturing facilities. Just if you go to your car, come back, touch your door handles, you touch the door handle on the building, your car door handle, like just come back and wash your hands if you're leaving a prep area. Touching living animals. I know we don't have living animals in our facilities, but I still know that's important, because what about service dogs? Sometimes people touch service dogs. Just never know, so I threw that in there. Cell phones and computers, so all of our handheld devices covered in germs, covered. And if you have any kind of bare hand contact with plants, dirt, or fertilizers, I don't think you should be touching the plants bare hand contact, but I've seen it. People don't wear gloves when they're dirt. Wash your hands. And then after mopping, anytime that you're cleaning your facility, mopping, sweeping, using the broom, wash your hands afterwards. So basically, how to wash your hands properly is you're going to wet your hands first. A lot of people just go straight to the soap and then in. You're actually supposed to kind of rinse and get your hands wet first, then get soap. And then you have to lather and scrub for at least 20 seconds. You have to get between your fingers, so between your fingers, under your nails, and the tops of your hands. And I go just a little bit below my elbow is how far up I wash my hands. Not up to my elbow, just a little bit below it. And then you need to rinse for 10 seconds. They actually say when you go to dry your hands to grab a paper towel and actually turn off the water with a paper towel, because then you would just get your hands covered in pathogens all over again. I know it's crazy. Germs freak me out, but this is kind of stuff we have to talk about. And I never knew any of this stuff. And now I use a paper towel or my paper towel to open doors and turn off faucets. And I never used to do that before. But that's if I'm handling a product. I'm not that, outside of my work life about it. But this is more like if you're working in your facilities and touching products, you should really be this anal about it. And another thing people don't know about, the water must be 100 degrees within 30 seconds of activation. So you want to make sure that your water source is heating up properly, because if not, you could get nabbed by the health department. They actually check this in Denver. They will come check your hand washing sinks and make sure they're at the right temperature and write you a violation. And I'm pretty sure hand washing sinks are critical violations in Denver. So that's the risk that you take in your facility, depending on what state and who's regulating you and your regulators. But 100 degrees within 30 seconds of activation. So you want to make sure, I don't know how many two grows have these types. I've never seen a 3-compartment sink at a grow. I've seen mop sinks, maybe like a kitchen sink in a break room. or maybe a hand sink, but I've never really seen a 3-compartment sink and never really in a dispensary. So this is going to be manufacturing facilities, people who are manufacturing infused products, concentrates. I got this awesome handout from Department of Health and Environment, definitely look at 2016, but it still applies. I feel grateful for Colorado because they really do push a lot of good information out here for our industry. They actually made this for our industry. I got it at a meeting I was at. So you want to make sure that your first sink, you have a 3-compartment sink, that you have your wash set up. So up here, all your dirty dishes will be, then you have your wash, which is hot water and detergent. Then you have your rinse, and then you have your sanitizer. So you want to sanitize with an approved sanitizer such as chlorine, bleach, a quat, or iodine for at least 1 minute per the manufacturer instructions. So basically, you want to follow the instructions on your labels, and you want to use industrial detergents and not go to the grocery store and buy Dawn. You are running and operating a commercial facility. You're licensed, you're regulated, and you should be using industrial equipment and industrial approved chemicals in your facility, and not Dawn that you buy at the grocery store for $2. And a lot of times too, you can have I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the company, but they come up and they'll set up the dispensers where the tube drops down in every sink, and they'll literally say, hit this button once, and then you have the regulated amount of sanitizer and detergent in your sink. And that makes it a lot easier, and they can help set you up with your dishwasher and make sure your dishwasher's running properly. And then you're required, if you manually washing dishes, that they have to air dry. Sometimes the dishwashing machines have an air dry solution in the machine that dries it for you. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk a little bit about pest control. By no means am I an expert when it comes to growing, but what I am really good at is health and sanitation. And when we get into facility and we have pest issues, this actually does have to do with health and sanitation. So one of the things is, so when you're spraying or using chemicals in your facility, it's up to you to be responsible and follow the labels. The employees should be trained, and they should have the proper PPE gear. So basically that's the protection gear, whether it's the mask, goggles, gloves, specific gloves, because sometimes rubber gloves aren't strong enough if you're using crazy and intense chemicals, the biosuits, the face mask, everything, making sure you have masks with ventilation and filters. So you want to also make sure that all your employees have an understanding of the REIs if you're spraying pesticides, and that basically is on the back of your label. It will list an REI, which will say you can enter this room in 4 hours after you've sprayed. Because going into the room, you have all those chemicals in the air, and you don't want employees coming in that aren't masked and breathing that into their lungs, and they can't enter into the room until 4 hours. You also need to follow OSHA guidelines along with the Department of Agriculture in your state. So OSHA has guidelines on how to make sure your PPE equipment and gear, your face mask and all that is fitted properly, and that there's nothing leaking into the mask. Because once again, we're here to protect the employees. We're protecting the plants and the customers, but we're also protecting our employees and staff when we're using any kind of chemicals. So I thought I would just list some examples of different versions of pest control that we can have. You're not going to have a lot of pest issues in a dispensary, other than maybe you might have to set up a couple of the commercial industrial mouse traps that companies set up, or maybe you get some flies coming in because it's summer. You're not going to have too many pest issues on the dispensary side. Now, you could have pest issues in your production facility, because you're creating food, there's garbage. So if your garbage isn't getting taken out, or garbage is piling up outside and it's not all in the dumpster, that attracts bugs and pests. And every time you open your door in your facility, you don't have blowers or something, those pests can get into your facility. But it's specifically the cultivation side where it's really easy to have a pest issue than the other facilities. So here's a couple things that we can do in our grow facilities to help with pest control. And like I said, I'm not an expert grower. There could be things missing here. These are just the things that I know of that exist. So we have sticky mats. I know a lot of people that use sticky mats. I've also seen the mats. They're pretty deep, and people pour a liquid or solution into those mats, and you step on the mats and get your feet wet before you go into the next room. I've seen sticky cards that have stakes in them that go in the plants. I've also seen the tape. It's not necessarily fly tape, but it's like another, maybe it's a company that makes tape for more on the cultivation side. I've seen that hanging. Then we have approved chemicals. So for people who do use pesticides or 25B compliant chemicals, or even down, I think people use neem oil and stuff like that. So anything in that section of chemicals. We have air blowers at the entrance. I've been in facilities that definitely have an air blower where you get pushed into a clean room and you get blown off, and then you're supposed to like literally get all new clothing on, and you put on the biosuit, booties, shoe covers, or you get into scrubs or a uniform. Screens on doors, though they have this in our regulations in Colorado, and I kept thinking, what grow has a screen door? It's a little weird, but I think it's kind of funny. I thought I'd throw it in there. I've seen kitchens with screen doors, but I've really never seen a grow with a screen door. But maybe, who knows? There could be a big old hoop greenhouse out in the middle of California that, in the Emerald Triangle, that has a screen door on it. So it could exist. I just haven't seen it. You can hear the rain. We're getting a blizzard today in Denver. It's so exciting. Good thing I'm at home all day. So biosuits. So we have biosuits or uniforms for employees and visitors. Like I said, I'm a big believer in the uniforms when we're at the grow, because it all starts the grow, and that's where we're cultivating everyone's medicine. And it doesn't matter if you're rec or medical, it's somebody's medicine. Even if they're not a patient, that doesn't mean it's not their medicine, because some people don't go on the medical marijuana registry for many, many, many different reasons. Whether they're paranoid, they don't want to be found out that they use cannabis, and they don't go on to protect themselves, or they have a government job, or they're a teacher, or they're a doctor, or maybe they want to be able to have their guns, because you're not technically allowed to own guns if you have a medical marijuana card. So there's tons of reasons why somebody wouldn't be shopping on the medical side, and just because they're shopping on the adult use side does not mean they do not have an illness or a compromised immune system, or they're sick or something's going on with them. So that's why I think there should be these clean practices implemented in cultivation facilities. So we have on-site grow shoes. Those are the shoes that you go and buy. They don't ever touch the ground outside or the surface outside. You got them in the shopping bag, and you take them right into the grow, and they never leave the grow. They just stay in the grow. Or you have shoe covers or booties that go over your shoes. Because think about it, you walk outside on the sidewalk, on the pavement, on the grass. There's so many bugs that you cannot see with your human eye that could be on the bottom of your shoe, and now you're dragging it into your clean facility that you have all these cleaning practices. It's like, why bother implementing all these clean practices if you're walking in with your shoes? You just trample through grass, which is full of aphids. I know at my house, before I go into a grow and do an audit, I only will audit one grow a day. I'll never go into more than one grow. because I don't want to create cross contamination. But I keep a pair of clean shoes to bring to that grow, because in the summertime there's aphids everywhere outside. So these are just things to think about. That's why I like the blowers and all that stuff, these protocols. So we have predatory mites, ladybugs, turkeys, and chickens. Why did I put turkeys and chickens? Well, this is really fascinating, and it's so cool. But a lot of the outdoor grows out here in Colorado, they're using turkeys and chickens to eat all the pests. It's really exciting. It's so cool. And so these cultivation facilities that I go to that are outdoor, they just have all these, they have basically turkeys running around and chickens and roosters, and all they do go and they just eat the bugs. They just eat the bugs all day off the plants, off the ground, everything. And I have people that swear by having these on their farm. So it's just, I mean, obviously you don't want turkeys and chickens running around inside your warehouse cultivation facility. But if you have an outdoor grow, I highly recommend it. Almost every outdoor cultivation facility in Colorado that I know uses some type of like farm animal, like a bird, to eat all their bugs, and they swear by it. And then don't forget they poop, which fertilizes your soil, so it's like a double win. Okay. So why is it so important that I'm sharing all these things today with you? Um, even just talking about different ways to have pest control in your facility, because it is really linked to health and sanitation. And why it's so important is because we have a thing called, this is true, a fact. We have an at-risk population. And our at-risk population are the elderly and children and basically sick people. I just put the word in patients because we're dealing with medical cannabis here. And obviously, we don't have a lot of children that consume, but we have children who are sick that consume. And we have children who have seizures that take oils and things like that. So we do have children that medicate and use this as medicine. And we have elderly and we have sick patients. And the reason why it's so important is because they have compromised immune systems. They have weak immune systems because they're sick. And so anything of even your plants not being flush properly, or you have PM, or you're not using your pesticides properly, or you didn't flush them properly, or not washing your hands and doing bare hand contact, all these things at the end of the day, it goes on the plant that the at-risk population could potentially be consuming. And now they're already at risk, and then we're going to go ahead and make them even more at risk to getting sick. And at the end of the day, we're serving patients. Yeah, it's great. We have rec and we serve customers, and we have people who aren't sick that are consuming. But at the end of the day, this all started because of medical patients, and that this is still someone's medicine, and that's how I always look at it. Even though I love the retail side of cannabis, I'm always trying to remember it doesn't matter which side you're shopping on, you should implement it all the same across the board. So that's why it's important, because, like I said, this is someone's medicine at the end of the day. So I wanted to give you some health and sanitation resources to provide you with, and I'm going to email them and attach them to the email once I get this video uploaded to YouTube and send you the link. I'll attach these resources that I'm going to share with you. I got some handouts I'm going to share. So I have these sanitation guidance. Some of you that are on here that I know already have these because I emailed them to you. But I'm just going to email them out to everyone. So this is basically our Denver Health Department created this. We have a marijuana enforcement team at our Denver Health Department. As you can see, Denver, it says Public Health Investigations. They put these together for us, and I'm forever grateful. They're really, 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 really trying to bridge the gap for health and sanitation practices to our facilities. It doesn't matter what state or county. If you're not in Denver County, you're not in Colorado, I would say take these and print them and hang them in your facility. I will send you the PDF attachments, and you can do so, laminate them, hang them up, because they're all really good. It's a really good guidance tool. So I have one for product manufacturers, I have one for cultivators, and then I have one for centers and stores. That's basically what we call our medical side versus our rec side. Yeah, and there's like a lot of helpful information. Some of them got cut off, but I just kind of wanted to get them on the slide so you could see. And I just think it's important to have resources for everyone. So I will send these off to you today. And then, I'm like, what did I do on this slide? Oh yeah, okay. So this is basically other resources for your cannabis business. So for one, so how can you get more information coming to you when it comes to health and sanitation? Well, you can sign up for bulletins from your local regulators from the health department. I'm signed up with Denver County Health Department. I get any kind of bulletins, anything. I follow them on Facebook because the Denver Health Department will post who passed inspections on their Facebook page. And guess who they post? Dispensaries and MIP facilities and producers. They will actually list them on Facebook if they pass their inspection. You can also look for people who have had critical violations. And this is also grows, MIPS, I'm sorry, production facilities, so you understand what I'm talking about. Production facilities and dispensaries, because they get inspected every 6 months in Denver County. And Denver County is pretty big, so we have a lot of facilities in Denver County. It's a lot of licenses. So that's one way to get information. Another one is attend a food safety class, whether it's online, in your state, in your local city or town, or you have someone like me who's local, come on site and just do a 2-hour training with all your employees. It gives them additional education, and then also try to see what other additional education that's offered by your state. For new states, you guys are just starting out, it's going to take time. We've had medical cannabis since 2000 in Colorado. Amendment 20 was passed in 2000. I think we saw the first dispensary start popping up in 2008, 2007. We weren't really regulated until the Marijuana Enforcement Division was created, 2010. And then once that happened, we started getting more resources. I would say after we legalized recreational in 2014, the resources really started becoming available, because I think then the state was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be servicing everyone 21 and up. So if your state is behind, it's okay. It happens. It's normal. Look how long it took us. Remember, we've been doing this. We legalized rec in 2012, but we didn't open a facility until 2014. So we've been at it a while, and now they're finally like, here's all these awesome resources we're giving you. So just be patient with your state if it hasn't happened. And if it has, great. So you want to sign up for newsletters from OSHA, local, and federal. So local would be Colorado, and federal basically is basically the whole entire thing. I get emails and updates from my local, and I get the newsletter for federal. And like I said earlier, read local restaurant regulations for additional information. You can incorporate some of this information into your SOPs or your training for your employees. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Here's my website, and you can always reach out to my email address, jenny@icsconsultingservice.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. Twitter. Please follow my Facebook page, my business Facebook page for ICS Consulting Service. I post a lot of valuable information. Anytime a bulletin comes out in Denver County, I post it, which will be helpful for anyone in Colorado or even in other states just to see what our regulation looks like. I'm going to go ahead and take questions right now. I just wanted to turn off the recording. So thank you again for joining me, and I will take questions if anyone has any questions.
I have one, Jenny.
Oh, who am I talking to? Steve?
This is Steve.
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
Good.
I'm totally down with the having the poultry livestock for pest control.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any regulations that you know so far